I'm Grayson Ottaway. This is Marvelous Videos. Batman and Robin, the phrase has always been this way, and the first man to ever hold the title of Robin was Dick Grayson. Just like Bruce, Grayson lost his family at a young age when his acrobat parents were killed by criminals, even though they had nothing to do with being in their line of fire. He was soon adopted by Bruce Wayne and became his mentee. He eventually became Batman's sidekick as Robin, but as he graduated from this position, Grayson carved out his own path as Nightwing, the masked vigilante who protected Gotham City's neighboring city, the economically crippled Bludhaven. Needless to say, he made several enemies during his run as Robin, and even more so as Nightwing. In today's video, we'll talk about 14 such lethal characters who found an enemy in Nightwing. Before though we go into our explanation, a very small request. If you like our content, please support this channel by subscribing to it. Small click for you, but for us means a great deal. Thank you. Number 1. Blockbuster. Starting off with a bang, we have Blockbuster. Originally a chemist who turned into a strong but mindless behemoth due to self-experimentation, Mark Desmond had to be taken care of by his brother Roland Desmond. Roland used his brains to use Mark's brawn for criminal activities, bringing them under Batman and Robin's radar. Mark was later killed by one of Darkseid's creations, but the story just begins here. His powers and the mantle of Blockbuster were passed on to Roland after he was forced to be treated with experimental steroids. But instead of turning into a behemoth, Roland turned into a genius who soon became the king of Bludhaven's criminal empire. His run as the emperor was going to be smooth thanks to Nightwing's heroism. Since Nightwing became an obstacle in the path of Blockbuster 2, the two of them became arch enemies. The criminal wanted nothing more than to tear the vigilante down, since the latter was a huge threat to his criminal cartel. When it comes to powers and abilities, blockbusters tend to have superhuman strength, stamina, and durability. Their intellect also takes a massive hit, but in a negative way. But Roland Desmond acts as an exception here. Number 2. Anthony Zuko. What Joe Chill is to Batman, Anthony Zuko is to Nightwing. He was a mafia boss who ran an extortion racket. Zuko had decided to take over Haley's circus for extorting money, but got turned down by the owner. Meanwhile, Dick Grayson and his parents were a part of Haley's circus, operating under the stage name The Flying Graysons. Zuko wanted to show his power to the owner after being turned down and decided to sabotage the acrobatic performance of the Graysons, while a young Dick Grayson watched his parents pull off stunts for the show. Zuko's men poured acid on the rope being used by the Graysons. The rope soon disintegrated and broke apart, bringing the Flying Graysons to the ground, while Dick Grayson watched his parents fall to their deaths in absolute horror. Zuko went underground while Grayson got adopted by Bruce Wayne. Eventually, Grayson was trained by Bruce and began to act as Robin. With Batman, he was eventually able to bring Zuko down, while one of his men confessed Zuko's crimes. Enraged, Zuko killed the man for blowing the whistle, but by that time, Robin and Batman had all the evidence that they needed. In the storyline of Batman Dark Victory, Zuko was more of a low-level thug working for Sal Maroni from Carmine Falcone's mafia empire. The drug business Zuko worked for often got sabotaged, and as such, he came up with a new plan. The rest went in a similar fashion to the original story, and Zuko was later chased by Batman and Robin. The man ended up having a heart attack mid-chase and confessed to his crimes right before going into a coma. Anthony Zuko has no special powers as such.
You should have stayed home.
Number 3. Deathstroke. Slade Wilson ran away from his home and enlisted in the American Army at the age of 16. He proved to have a knack for guerrilla warfare and soon became proficient in several styles of combat. Following the birth of his first son, he was made to volunteer for a medical experiment that would allegedly make him immune to the enemy's truth serum. However, it was actually an experiment to create metahuman super soldiers. Naturally, Slade's body did not react well to the procedure, turning him aggressive for the time being. training, but eventually he stabilized and acquired enhanced strength, agility, stamina, and the likes. Slade risked his military career when his friend was captured in a suicide mission, while the superiors refused to help him out. To save his friend, Slade secretly went on a solo mission, but was subsequently discharged for disobeying orders, despite saving his friend. By this time, Slade was fed up with the Army's strict code and adopted the persona known as Deathstroke the Terminator. He eventually went on to become the greatest mercenary in the world, and rightfully so. In the Judas Contract arc, Slade was tasked by the Hive to kill the Teen Titans. He refused the job, but it was taken up by his son, Grant Wilson, or the Ravager, who was unaware of his father being Deathstroke. Later, Slade joined the Ravager as Deathstroke, but witnessed his firstborn die in his arms. Grief-stricken, Slade swore to destroy the Teen Titans. Later, while Slade fulfilled the original contract and sent off the Teen Titan members to the Hive, Dick Grayson was offered to rescue his friends alongside his friend Joseph, who would later become Jericho. Grayson also adopted his new persona of being Nightwing, and together they were able to free the Titans and apprehend Slade for kidnapping them. In terms of power and abilities, Slade started off as an expert in combat and as a marksman. Following the super soldier experiment, Slade acquired super strength, speed, intellect, stamina, reflexes, and endurance that far surpassed that of the ordinary man. He also possessed accelerated healing, enhanced senses, and a high body temperature of 110 degrees Celsius, which allowed him to withstand severely cold temperatures. Number 4. Deathwing. With a name that mirrors that of Nightwing's, Deathwing was a villain and a Dollatron of Professor Pig's. As a Dollatron, Deathwing was an individual who was abducted and surgically altered by Professor Pig. Dollatrons were brainwashed to be obedient, and in Deathwing's case, he was brainwashed to think of himself as the real Nightwing. However, he changed his name to Deathwing as he took up the vigilante's job of apprehending criminals, but instead killed them for their crimes. In fact, he went on a rampage, killing not just the criminals, but also the people who stood in his way. Naturally, his interaction with the original Nightwing was not the most cordial, as Deathwing considered Dick Grayson to be an imposter and as such intended to kill him. Deathwing, though, didn't have any superpowers. However, he excelled in martial arts, acrobatics, stealth, and in tactical analysis. Number 5. Shrike. A man who has considered Grayson to be his enemy since the early years, Shrike originally started out as friends with Nightwing. However, Dick Grayson found his mentor in Bruce Wayne, or Batman, while Shrike traveled throughout the Pacific Rim and acquired his skills in martial arts under the mentorship of several unsavory masters. Some of them were operatives in the League of Assassins as well. Things changed for the worse in Hong Kong when Shrike met the Master, who carved him into the killing machine known as Shrike. Shrike clashed with his old friend after he returned to America. With his skill set, he was almost able to defeat Nightwing, who would have been done for if Black Canary had not saved him in the nick of time. The next time they clashed, an enraged Grayson was able to defeat him. Shrike later became a part of the League of Assassins, which was run by Nyassa Al Ghul. Following his run with the League, he joined the Secret Society. As an assassin, Shrike was skilled in martial arts and with weapons such as the shuriken, which is commonly used by ninjas, and steel-reinforced tonfas. Back in the day, he had elimination missions throughout Asia and never failed to send his targets to their graves.
Who are you?
My name is Talon.
Number 6. The Talons. The Talons are members of Gotham City's Court of Owls, a secret society that recruited the strongest children from Haley's Circus as their assassins and referred to them as Talons. The organization was supposedly a myth in Gotham and was often spoken of in a nursery rhyme. They were mythically renowned for their stealth and for always keeping an eye on the citizens, not to protect them, but to be the very thing people would need protection against. The Talons were given the ability to regenerate their broken bones. They also had to work with the court until they died, but they were often kept alive for years and years via special procedures. We got to see this crisis in Batman and Robin comics, where the duo went against a Talon from the 1770s. Robin was supposed to have been recruited as a Talon following his parents' death, but he was taken in by Bruce Wayne instead. The Talon in this story attacked Robin and his friend Benjamin, but was ultimately incapacitated by Robin. Nightwing's grandfather, William Cobb, was also an evil Talon. In terms of abilities, the Talons were trained from their younger years to be resilient, since they were broken down and had to build themselves back up. They were also highly intelligent and very proficient with weapons. Number 7. Tarantula. Originally known as Catalina Marie Flores, Tarantula grew up in an injustice-filled Bludhaven. She soon left the place and trained at Quantico for the FBI. She later returned to Bludhaven and met the first Tarantula, Jonathan Law. She had read his memoirs before and wished to know everything about his career as Tarantula. Gradually, she fell under Nightwing's radar when she attended a self-defense class taught by him, and even succeeded at hitting him. Catalina ended up as the next Tarantula and began to work as a vigilante in Bludhaven. However, Grayson noticed her extremely violent methods and stopped her from being a vigilante in the city. Catalina was enraged by his decision and became an antagonist to Nightwing. In terms of skills, Catalina was proficient in hand-to-hand combat, swordsmanship, and marksmanship. She also mastered several styles of martial arts and had a certain level of knowledge of poisonous substances. She carried a gun and other bladed weapons. She also used a wire poon and a blowgun with darts that had low levels of paralyzing poison, and had access to a technology that allowed her to stick to surfaces. Number 8. Lady Vic. Lady Vic, which is short for Lady Victim, was originally known as Lady Elaine Marsh Morton. She belonged to an elite line of British mercenaries who acquired her skills due to her lineage and alongside access to an arsenal of exotic weapons. She began to work as a mercenary to protect the foreclosure on her family's estate. She also got into an agreement with Angel Marin, a mobster from Bludhaven who refused her payment. To acquire what she deserved, Lady Vic threatened Marin's lawyer, bringing her to Nightwing's attention. Lady Vic was later sent to Planet Salvation. She also became a part of the Secret Six. As a mercenary, Lady Vic wielded Chris daggers, Zulu knob kerry, Kukris, Thuggy strangling cloth, Zul Assegai spear, and a Webley Fosbury .455 revolver. Number 9. Nightwing. Once again, we have a villain with a name similar to that of our heroic vigilante from Bludhaven. Before becoming Nightwing, the man was known as Tad Ryerstad. He was abandoned as a child and grew up in Bludhaven's awful foster care system, where he was named Tad, which is literally short for tadpole. Yep, this is canon. He was thrown and tossed from foster home to foster home, like a game of passing the parcel, and eventually began to live on the streets. He came to learn about John Law's crime-fighting Tarantula and began to idolize him. As such, he wanted to fight the wrongs of Bludhaven and adopted the persona of Nightwing the Vigilante. He took his first L on his first day when he was repeatedly shot by Blockbuster's gang members. Nightwing joined the ruckus, defending him from them and rushing him to the emergency. However, after Tad was out of the hospital, he sought revenge on the people who injured him gravely, and as such went on a murderous rampage, taking down the men who worked for Blockbuster. Later, Nightwing decided to help him out and to train him. This turned out to be a bad idea though, because Nightwing was unaware of his namesake's violent nature as he went on a rampage once again. Following his capture at the hands of the gang, undercover FBI agent Cisco Blaine tried to save him. However, Tad ended up beating him to his death. He later learnt that Blaine was a cop and not one of the gang members, and as such, he fled. He was ultimately apprehended by Nightwing. Naturally, Nightwing had no superpowers, and as a fighter, he preferred brutality over strength. He used billiard balls and a 3-foot steel baton that he had gotten from a junkyard to fight crime and to bludgeon people to death. Number 10. Raptor. A freelance assassin, Raptor hailed from a circus family of Roma gypsies who wandered about in Paris. Misfortune struck him hard when he contracted leprosy at a young age. Soon he became an outcast in his own community and was terribly discriminated against. He soon met Mary Lloyd, an acrobat from his troupe, who harbored hatred towards the elite in Paris, just like Raptor himself. Together they began to steal from the wealthy and tried to acquire the necessary medication for Raptor's condition. Raptor eventually fell in love with her, but she ended up marrying John Grayson, an acrobat from Haley's circus. Following Mary and John's death, Raptor was guilt-stricken for not protecting her. However, her son, Dick Grayson, got adopted by billionaire Bruce Wayne. That made matters worse, because Bruce Wayne was the exact type of people he and Mary hated: wealthy and elite. Raptor went on to watch Grayson from afar and eventually learned of his identity as Robin and Nightwing. He also worked as a freelance assassin and became a mentor to Grayson for the Parliament of Owls. Thanks to leprosy, Raptor suffered severe nerve damage, which took away his ability to feel pain to a great extent. As such, he acquired the ability to fight without being exacerbated by pain. Number 11. Double Dare. Double Dare was a pair of twins, Aliki and Margot Marceau. They were entertainers from the French Cirque Sensationnel, but later entered a life of thievery for two reasons: fun and greed. However, the acrobatic twins gradually upscaled their crimes and began to commit paid murders while they operated in Bludhaven. They were even invited to Lazarus Island, that is the headquarters for the League of Lazarus, for the death tournament. Following a string of burglaries, the radar fell on Blockbuster. The police SWAT team also ended up targeting Nightwing, albeit by mistake, all when the actual crimes were caused by the Double Dare twins from Europe's Circus Sensationnel. Number 12. Paragon. Gotham City's vigilantes found another opposer in Paragon, who hated nothing as much as he hated masked vigilantes and how rampant they'd become in the city. As such, he created his own hero to fight against the existing vigilantes. Paragon teamed up with the Strayhorn brothers, whom he taught how to fight, and together they created a team of citizens who disliked the vigilantes. As such, they took upon the name Republic of Tomorrow and operated from the Gotham Clock Tower. In a separate event, the three members of the Republic almost fell off a cliff, but were rescued by Nightwing, one of the masked vigilantes that the team hated. The Strayhorn brothers, however, shifted their allegiance and started to support the vigilantes because they were saved by one. Enraged due to the betrayal, Paragon murdered the Strayhorn brothers and framed Nightwing to make him look like the bad guy. Naturally, Nightwing had to investigate the matter to clear his own name and ended up learning the truth about the Republic's activities. Enraged once again, Paragon decided to kill Nightwing to start his plan of purging the city of its masked vigilantes. Following their final battle, Nightwing has to sacrifice catching Paragon to save the people who had come under Paragon's line of fire, allowing the latter to escape with his crew. Paragon had no enhanced abilities as such. However, he possessed genius-level intellect, great leadership skills, advanced skills in hand-to-hand combat, and an ability to build gadgets. Number 13. Brutale. Before becoming Brutale, he was Guillermo Barrera of Hasaragua. He was a vicious interrogator in the secret police of Hasaragua's government, often using blades and surgical tools to coerce his victims into confessing. Barrera had to flee the country after the Cuban-backed Marxist regime fell, as he wanted to avoid being hung for his crimes. He took upon the moniker of Brutale, known for his expertise with knives and blades, and offered his assassination services to the highest bidders. As such, he fell under Roland Desmond, or the Blockbuster's radar, and was tasked with killing Nightwing. Brutale worked alongside his partner Stallion to achieve his objective, but they were ultimately defeated by the man that they'd sworn to kill. Brutale escaped in the end, as he did not want to be incarcerated or sent back to Hasaragua. Later, he became a part of the secret society of supervillains formed by Lex Luthor himself. As an assassin, Brutale did not have any superpowers or enhanced abilities as such. However, he was an expert with knives. And number 14, Lady Shiva. Finally, we close the list with Lady Shiva, or Sandra Wuzan. She was the goddaughter of All Sensei, an expert at martial arts. She had lost her sister when she was killed. However, a strange man soon approached her and convinced her that she was killed by Richard Dragon. Sandra became hell-bent on avenging her sister and dedicated herself to her training in order to defeat Richard Dragon. Around this time, she discovered her natural talent in martial arts. As she peaked, Sandra sought out Richard Dragon under the codename of Shiva. She lured him into her trap, only to learn that Richard Dragon never killed her sister, and she was lied to by the mysterious man because he wanted Dragon dead. She also went on to learn the name of the real killer and the fact that Richard Dragon had already killed him. Shiva lost her ultimate purpose in life, but didn't want to let her training go into waste. As such, she began to aid Richard Dragon in his missions and eventually partnered with others in assassination missions. In the post-Flashpoint Earth Zero continuity, Shiva was a skilled member of the League of Assassins, bringing her and Batman's story to a meeting point. She nearly managed to kill him, but Batman was ultimately saved by Dick Grayson, who was, in his earlier years, Robin. She ran into him once again, but this time with Grayson acting as Nightwing, when Penguin had hired her to stage a terrorist attack. Strangely, she left her fight with him when she realized that she was the superior combatant, but promised to meet him once again. Lady Shiva is one of the best assassins and martial artists on Earth. She has mastered several combat styles, including martial arts that had been forgotten about ages ago. She's acquired the ability to read and predict people's movements from their body language and can go against several opponents at once. Batman himself referred to her as the best martial artist alive. The marvelous verdict. Grayson successfully shed his identity of being a sidekick to the greatest detective on the planet and cemented his own identity as Nightwing. He went after dangerous villains, following Batman's teachings, and brought them to justice whenever necessary. If you like our content, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and please be safe.